The concept of the Waldemath Moon, also known as the Lilith Moon or Dark Moon, represents a hypothetical second satellite of Earth, first proposed by astronomer George Waldemath in the late 19th century. While not physically proven to exist, it has been integrated into certain branches of esoteric astrology to represent a point of extreme focus, hidden desires, and the shadow side of the psyche. When this elusive point resides in the seventh house of a natal chart, the house of partnerships, open enemies, and legal contracts, it creates a complex psychological landscape regarding how an individual relates to others. The nature of the Waldemath Moon. Unlike the black moon Lilith, which is a mathematical point, the lunar apogee, the Waldemath Moon is often interpreted as a more dense or material shadow. It represents the parts of our nature that are difficult to see because they are obscured by our own projections. In the seventh house, these shadows are not kept internally, they are mirrored back to the individual through their most intimate relationships. The mirror of the shadow self. The seventh house is traditionally the house of others. With the dark moon here, there is a profound tendency to project one's own unacknowledged power, chaos, or darkness onto partners. You may find yourself consistently attracted to people who are mysterious, disruptive, or even hidden in some way. There is often a feeling that the partner holds a key to a part of yourself that you cannot access alone. This can lead to a cycle of intense attraction followed by a sense of being haunted by the relationship. The lesson here is learning that the qualities you find most polarizing in your partner, whether it's their fierce independence or their emotional volatility, are actually dormant traits within your own soul. Power dynamics and open enemies. In traditional astrology, the seventh house also rules open enemies. With the Waldemath Moon in this placement, there can be a recurring theme of feeling undermined by others or encountering karmic adversaries. These are rarely simple disagreements, they often feel fated or deeply psychological. The dark moon here suggests that you must learn to navigate the fine line between compromise and self-effacement. There is a risk of becoming a chameleon in order to keep a partner, or conversely, attracting partners who try to dominate your identity. The darkness of this moon acts as a vacuum, sometimes pulling in high-intensity personalities that force you to define your own boundaries with absolute clarity. The search for the sacred other. On a higher vibrational level, the Waldemath Moon in the seventh house indicates a soul seeking a sacred or absolute union. You are likely bored by superficial connections. You crave a partnership that acknowledges the messy, visceral, and unspoken parts of existence. This placement often manifests as a twin flame or soulmate obsession, where the individual feels they are searching for a missing piece of themselves. However, the Waldemath Moon warns that no human can truly complete another. The path to a healthy seventh house expression involves integrating your own shadow so that you no longer require a partner to act it out for you. Integration and healing. To work effectively with this placement, one must move away from the victim-perpetrator dynamic that the dark moon often triggers in relationships. Healing comes through radical honesty about what you expect from others. When you stop looking for a partner to be your savior or your scapegoat, the seventh house Waldemath Moon transforms into a powerful tool for objective self-awareness. You begin to see your relationships not as sources of drama, but as clear, still waters that reflect your own growth. You eventually gain the ability to form deep, transformative bonds that are based on seeing the truth of the other person, rather than a projection of your own hidden needs. In essence, the Waldemath Moon in the seventh house is an invitation to find the one within yourself, so that the other can finally be seen for who they truly are. Expanding further on the Waldemath Dark Moon in the seventh house, we must delve into the specific psychological ghosts this placement creates within the realm of the other. Because the seventh house sits directly across from the first house of the self, the Waldemath Moon here acts as a gravitational well that pulls the individual's repressed instincts across the horizontal axis of the chart and deposits them into the lives of their partners. The allure of the taboo partner. The Waldemath Moon carries a vibration of the forbidden or the unseen. When positioned in the house of marriage and committed partnership, it often manifests as an irresistible attraction to individuals who embody a social or psychological taboo. This is not merely about bad boys or femme fatale, it is a deep-seated soul hunger for a partner who functions outside the mundane lines of consensus reality. The individual may find themselves in relationships that are shrouded in secrecy, or they may choose partners who are fundamentally unavailable, physically, emotionally, or legally. The darkness of this moon thrives in the space between what is promised and what is actually given. This creates a cycle where the individual feels they are constantly chasing a ghost, trying to find a solid commitment in a fog of ambiguity. The enemy within the union. Because the 7th house governs open enemies, the Waldemath Moon can create a sleeping with the enemy dynamic. This doesn't necessarily mean physical danger, but rather a psychological warfare where the partner becomes the symbol of everything the individual fears about themselves. If the individual has repressed their own capacity for anger, they will attract a partner who is explosively angry. If they have repressed their own ambition, they will attract a partner who is ruthlessly competitive. The Waldemath Moon ensures that these traits are brought into the light of the 7th house through conflict. The friction in the relationship is actually the soul's attempt to reintegrate a lost fragment of the self. Until this projection is reclaimed, the individual may feel that other people are out to get them or that every relationship eventually turns into a battleground. Legalities and the shadow of the contract. Beyond romance, the 7th house governs all formal contracts. With the Waldemath Moon here, there is a distinct warning regarding the fine print of life. This placement suggests a propensity for entering into agreements where the true intentions of the other party are obscured. Whether it is a business merger or a prenuptial agreement, the individual must exercise extreme discernment. There is a tendency to sign away power because of a deep-seated need for the security of the bond. The Waldemath Moon reveals that true security cannot be found in a legal document if the psychological foundation is built on a shadow. It often takes a significant betrayal or a messy public dissolution of a contract to force the individual to stop looking for external validation and start trusting their own internal compass. The transformation of the mirror. The ultimate evolution of the Waldemath Moon in the 7th house is the development of psychological sight. Once the individual realizes that their partners are not doing things to them but are showing things to them, the drama subsides. The individual becomes a truth seeker in the realm of human connection. They develop an uncanny ability to see through the masks of others, making them excellent mediators, therapists, or negotiators. They no longer fear the darkness in others because they have made peace with the darkness in themselves. In this state of maturity, the 7th house Waldemath Moon allows for a rare type of intimacy, a naked relationship where two people see each other's shadows and choose to stay, not out of a need to be completed, but out of a shared recognition of their complex, multifaceted humanity. The karmic weight of the descent. Historically, the Waldemath Moon was thought to be a captured satellite, something from the outside that was pulled into Earth's orbit. Similarly, in the 7th house, partners may feel like foreign objects that have crashed into the individual's life to disrupt their trajectory. This is the descent into the underworld through the gateway of the other. It is a Persephone-Hades dynamic where the relationship serves as a bridge to a deeper level of consciousness. The pain associated with this placement is usually the pain of the ego being stripped away. When the individual finally stops trying to fix the partner and starts observing their own reactions to the partner, the 7th house transforms from a house of mirrors into a house of wisdom. The transit of the Waldemath Dark Moon, also known as the Phantom or Ghost Lilith, through the 7th house marks a significant period of psychological purging and intense relational discovery. While the natal placement describes a lifelong blueprint of how one mirrors their shadow through others, the transit represents a temporary, high-intensity visitation where these themes move from the subconscious into the realm of lived experience. The arrival of the unseen. When the Waldemath Moon transits the 7th house, it often feels as though a veil has been lifted from your partnerships, though what is revealed is rarely comfortable. This transit acts as a cosmic spotlight on the hidden elements of your unions. If a relationship has been built on unspoken resentments, repressed desires, or a fundamental lack of equality, the Dark Moon transit will amplify these issues until they can no longer be ignored. This period is frequently characterized by a sense of karmic urgency. You may feel an inexplicable pull toward new people who seem familiar, or you may find that existing partners begin to behave in ways that trigger deep-seated, ancestral fears. Projection and the meeting of the shadow. The primary mechanism of a 7th house transit is projection. During this window, you are likely to encounter the darker aspects of your own psyche embodied by the people you meet. The provocateur, you may attract individuals who are rebellious, disruptive, or outsiders. They act as a catalyst to help you reclaim your own lost sovereignty. The mirror of exile. If you have been suppressing your own needs to maintain peace, the transit may bring a partner who expresses that suppressed rage or selfishness for you. The challenge of the transit is to recognize that the intense emotional reactions you have toward others, whether it is extreme attraction or visceral repulsion, are actually reactions to parts of yourself that have been exiled or shamed. The dissolution of contracts. Because the 7th house governs legalities and formal agreements, the Waldemath transit can be a volatile time for contracts. It is a period where the truth comes out. Hidden clauses, secret motivations, or imbalances in power dynamics are often exposed. For some, this transit marks the end of a partnership that has served its purpose but has become a cage. For others, it is a trial by fire that strengthens the bond by forcing a level of radical honesty that was previously impossible. It is not a recommended time for signing long-term commitments unless the terms are transparent and both parties have addressed their shadow motives. Navigating the psychic sensitivity. The Waldemath Moon is associated with heightened psychic sensitivity. During its passage through the 7th house, you may find that your intuition regarding others is turned up to an almost overwhelming degree. You might sense a partner's thoughts or feel the emotional atmosphere of a room with painful clarity. This sensitivity is a tool for discernment, but it requires grounding. The transit asks you to trust your gut over your eyes. If a partnership feels off or heavy, the Waldemath Moon is likely signaling a misalignment with your soul's truth. Integration, reclaiming sovereignty. The transit concludes its journey through the 7th house by leaving the individual with a more authentic way of relating. The goal is not to find a perfect partner, but to become a person who no longer needs to project their darkness onto the world. By the time the dark moon leaves this house, the individual typically experiences release of codependency, a realization that the other cannot fix the internal void. Honoring boundaries, the ability to say no to connections that require the sacrifice of one's truth. Radical acceptance, a capacity to see partners as complex, flawed humans rather than idealized or demonized figures. In short, a Waldemath transit through the 7th house is a journey from the illusion of the perfect other to the reality of the empowered self in relation to the world. It is the process of learning to stand alone, so that one can finally truly stand with someone else. The conjunction of the Waldemath dark moon with a natal planet or angle in the 7th house acts as a total eclipse of the relational ego. When this phantom point merges with a natal celestial body, it doesn't just influence the planet, it swallows it, forces it into the underworld for a period of purification, and returns it to the surface stripped of its illusions. The conjunction is the most potent of all aspects because there is no distance between the shadow and the function of the planet. Here, the other becomes the literal vessel for the Waldemath energy, creating encounters that feel fated, inescapable, and profoundly transformative. Conjunction with the descendant, the angle of partnership. When the Waldemath moon conjuncts the descendant, the gateway of the 7th house itself is compromised. This is a highly sensitive point that defines how we meet the world. A conjunction here often manifests as a fated meeting with a person who acts as a total disruptor. You may feel an instantaneous, almost magnetic pull towards someone who represents your missing half, but this person often brings chaos or a demand for radical change. This conjunction forces you to redefine your identity by challenging the boundaries you have set between me and them. It is a crossing of the threshold where you can no longer pretend that your shadow belongs to someone else. The person standing in front of you is a living, breathing manifestation of your unconscious. Conjunction with personal planets, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars. When the dark moon sits directly atop a personal planet in the 7th house, that planet's function is darkened or intensified through the medium of relationship. Venus conjunction. This is perhaps the most intense placement for the Waldemath Moon. It creates a black rose effect, an aesthetic and romantic attraction to the dark, the melancholic, or the complex. Love is experienced as a form of soul stripping. You may attract partners who are profoundly beautiful but carry deep wounds, leading to a savior-victim dynamic that must be resolved through the realization that you are seeking to love the unlovable parts of yourself. Moon conjunction. This creates a deep emotional vacuum in partnerships. Your emotional security becomes tied to the hidden moods of the partner. There is a psychic sponge effect where you absorb the partner's subconscious trauma. The work here is learning emotional hygiene, distinguishing where your feelings end and theirs begin. Sun conjunction. Your very sense of purpose and light is filtered through the partner. You may feel invisible unless you are in a relationship, or you may choose partners who are so bright or dominant that they cast you into the shadow. The goal is to find your own sovereignty without needing a partner to act as your sun. Mars conjunction. This creates a highly charged, often volatile attraction. Passion is linked to the shadow. There may be a pattern of fighting to feel, where conflict is the only way to achieve intimacy. When integrated, this gives the individual incredible power to defend the vulnerable and to act as a warrior for truth within their unions. Conjunction with outer planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. When the Waldemath Moon conjuncts an outer planet in the 7th, the experience becomes less personal and more archetypal or generational. Saturn. This creates a karmic weight in partnerships. Relationships feel like heavy duties or ancient debts. There is a fear of abandonment that can lead to staying in dead structures long after they have expired. The lesson is about the difference between true commitment and a prison of one's own making. Pluto. This is a phoenix placement. Relationships are characterized by death and rebirth. Power struggles are inevitable until both parties surrender to the process of total transformation. It is the ultimate twin flame conjunction, where the intensity of the bond burns away everything that is not authentic. The void of the conjunction. The signature of a Waldemath conjunction is the feeling of a void. For a time, the planet being conjunct may feel like it has gone dark. You may lose your sense of what you want, Venus, how you feel, Moon, or how to act, Mars, within a relationship. This void is not a vacuum of nothingness, but a space of absolute potential. By silencing the normal way these planets function, the Waldemath Moon forces you to find a deeper, more primal source of energy. You are forced to stop relying on social scripts and start relying on your soul's raw instinct. The alchemical result. The conjunction ultimately functions as an alchemical marriage. It takes the lead of our unconscious projections and, through the heat of 7th house friction, attempts to turn it into the gold of conscious relation. If you can withstand the intensity of a Waldemath conjunction without fleeing or becoming a victim to the drama, you emerge with a rare gift, the ability to relate to others with total presence. You no longer fear the dark in your partner because you have sat with the dark in your own planets. You move from a state of reacting to others to a state of witnessing them, creating a space where true, unmasked intimacy can finally exist. Subscribe, like, and share.